Hello, I'm Derek,
And I'm Peter.
and this is The Mog.
In this podcast, one of us suggests a beloved movie from our childhood for the other to watch, and then we talk about it. What made us laugh, what made us cry, and whether we should blame our parents or take it like the men that we hope we are. Derek, what movie do we have today?
Today we have one of my beloved films. It's called The Phantom Tollbooth. It's from 1979, and I'd like to dedicate this episode to my brother Mark. It was his birthday on the weekend, so happy birthday, Mark.
Happy birthday, Mark. So yeah, this movie.
It's actually one of the earliest ones that I remember.
Oh, really?
Pretty close to, or even before, The Last Starfighter.
Oh, right. Do you want to, I can talk the synopsis later, but first do you want to give us a bit of a run through of if you have any special memories about it?
Yeah, okay. Well, this was another one. I talked about it in a previous episode, but my dad used to hide videos for us around the house to find, and it was our activity to keep us occupied. And this was one of those hidden VHS films. But I remember I watched this with my brother, and I actually spoke to him on the weekend, and when my dad was there, and he said, yeah, it was actually, Mark was, even though he was in school, when he was on holidays, used to babysit me, and it would just be him and me. All
right.
He was in grade 2, so he would have been 7, solely looking after me. So this was
that's responsible.
I don't know how they got away with that, man. But yeah. So.
Just whenever you say, "Oh no, our eldest is looking after him," you just don't say how old the eldest is.
7.
So, he's 22, is he? Well, -1 divided by 3.
Yeah, and so. But we watched that together, and I do have memories of it. I have memories of him sort of he was really sort of funny and carefree, and he was a witty sort of boy. And there's one memory where this is a kid's film, and there's songs throughout the whole film. And he just impromptu break into his own version. This is how it went. Time is a gift, precious and rare, a hungry bear is right in front of our car. Just crack up.
Just what in front of your car?
A hungry bear is right in front of our car. So, yeah, I used to look up to my brother, and we were close back then, I think. We'd fight, but, he was a lot more carefree back then, I remember.
Yeah, sounds like you kind of had some things that you did share in.
Yeah, so I would have been 4, I guess, when I saw this. And there's a lot that resonated with me. It's very sort of moral tale. It's like this boy who gets fed up with life, and he gets whisked away to this cartoon world, and he ends up on this amazing adventure. And, this is all my notes from before I rewatched it. So he meets this talking dog, and that's his sidekick, and there are all these quirky and interesting characters, and he ends up saving the world and taking lessons he learned about, and starts living his life and flying kites and running in the park. And it's something about the end of this film that really sort of gets me. It's saturated with color, and that music's sort of like Burt Bacharach, really sort of dreamy. I know. And
that just comes in all of a sudden. When it's in the real world, it's like 90s, 70s. Straight away.
But it's super saturated and really sort of cheesy, but I find that moving. And when I on a really sunny day, when I'm out, I sort of still think about that scene. If I'm out in the park or something. And,
right.
Yeah. It just sort of whisks me away, and I start daydreaming.
Oh gosh, man. Yeah. It's certainly, you said it's a very sort of moral film. It's an incredibly moral film.
Yeah, that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
It's very incredibly super duper absolute moral film.
Because you've never seen this, hey? Or heard about it?
I think not, because I think I would remember this a lot better.
Yeah.
This hits you in the face with morality.
I was actually a bit worried about how you'll take it on the rewatch, because it's a kids movie, but it's sort of.
But it's actually, as a kids movie, I can totally understand it, because kids rewatch stuff over and over and over again. So there are pieces in this that you would only pick up on 8th, 9th, 10th, 20th viewing. There's wordplay, there's all kinds of stuff going on in this. It's absolute saturation of people talking and stuff and morality, and
there's lots and lots of lessons. Yeah.
Oh my God.
When you put it that way. But this is all absorbed over many, many viewings for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can completely understand that.
But it's part of my moral fiber.
Yeah, that actually puts a few things into perspective for me. But yeah, I guess what I should do is give you a synopsis of this film. So there must have been a period of time when they were doing movies where they were interspersing live action with cartoons. I remember there were some Disney films that did it.
Mary Poppins.
Comes to mind. The Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Oh.
This one was it was at the beginning and the end, so at the tail ends of the film is the live action, and it starts with this intro of him sitting in his classroom being deluged with lessons and information. He looks completely disinterested, and you wonder whether he's taking any of it in, considering later on how much he actually remembers. He must be taking in the information through osmosis, because he looks like a root vegetable at the beginning of this film. And what I found interesting was they almost did the same thing that they did in The Toy, except it was a boy instead of the guy on the cycle, where he's walking through situations that are dangerous, not realizing that they're dangerous, and narrowly averting
fire trucks,
getting killed, or fire trucks, buses, or and then it's got this 70s groove song of What's to Become of Milo.
Yeah.
With quotes like, what's to become of Milo if he'd only try. So anyway, he finally gets home, and he sort of wanders around, grabs a cookie, and just lies on the couch doing nothing. And then the phone rings, and his friend is there. Ralphie baby. And they're having an existential crisis. I didn't realize 9-year-olds had this, but they were talking about how the meaning of everything, and when they're at school, they want to be someplace else. And
I like Ralph. He just agrees with everything Milo says. He's just so sympathetic.
He's the perfect friend. Perfect friend. Yeah, but anyway, so while they're on the phone, I think a gift comes through, just appears, and he unwraps it. Out comes his Tollbooth, and the Tollbooth starts talking to him and saying, where would you like to go? You can go any place. And he goes, I don't know where I want to go. So it gives him a map. And he says, oh, the castle in the sky looks good. And then it does, its thing where there's a transition from live action to cartoons.
Yeah.
So this is where it really it's one situation after another. And so he's in this car to drive through this world. He's trying to get to Dictionopolis to get to the castle in the sky, and every time they say castle in the sky, there's thunder and lightning.
Castle in the air, I think it is.
Is it castle in the air? Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it might be.
I apologize. That was, got to get that one right. Sorry.
I mentioned that because I was going to name you've been to my apartment. I was going to name it the Castle in the Air after this film. Yeah, but I changed it to Cloud City because Alex said that would make me Lando Calrissian. Cloud City.
You got to grow a mustache, man, for that.
Wear a cape. But it was going to be Castle in the Air after this film.
Oh, okay. Well, that's understandable. I mean, you have to go through a certain place to get there. So, and that kind of represents all the demons. So,
sorry, keep going.
So no. So anyway, he's driving along, and this cop comes up and stops him, and he's yelling guilty, guilty, guilty. You know, he's just accusing him of being guilty of everything that he says. And then that guy goes off, and then he's driving along, and then he meets the weatherman.
Well, the bit I liked in that bit after the rewatch was, do you want a long sentence or a short sentence? He goes, I'll take a short sentence. He goes, I am. It's the shortest sentence I know. Oh my God.
There's so...
The wordplay.
Actually, I think you're going to pick up a lot more statements and just interesting tidbits than I did, because I only watched this once and I had subtitles, and I still was overwhelmed because there was so much wordplay going on, and I was just spending all my time just trying to make sure I got all the plot points in there.
Yeah, true. Well, one other one I'll mention is when Milo was bored, he says to the toll booth, I don't think it's my birthday.
I really just tried to look for all the seedy statements and everything that was inappropriate. And I guess for a film that tried its best to be as appropriate as humanly possible, it was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's going along, drives through off from the policeman and the guilty cop, and then he starts to get all, slow and tired, and then he gets trapped in place with the Lethargians, who sing a song about
the doldrums.
The doldrums, living in the doldrums, the benefits of doing such, and everything starts to sag, and everyone's sort of falling asleep. And
there's a song in each little area.
Yeah, there is. There's a song in each area, and sometimes you're not even sure if it is a song at first. Like the music's playing, but they're still speaking.
Yeah.
It's sort of like some are more sing-songy than others, but it's definitely not a Disney type.
Yeah, it's got really surreal scenery that I always remembered. And even it's actually got like Dali's melting clock at one point.
Yeah, it does.
And it's just like some of the characters, they don't have faces and things like that, and it's very bizarre.
Yeah,
it's like it was by who's it by Chuck Jones, who did Bugs Bunny and Flintstones. That's right.
And it had the voice actors in it from
Mel
those
Blanc
cartoons as well.
Bunny,
Mel Blanc, absolutely.
Yeah, massive.
As soon as you hear him doing his Bugs Bunny voice,
you switch to that era. But it's so different than anything of that era. It's just like really left field, I would say.
Well, it's based on a book.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize. And the guy that wrote the book, I think he really didn't like this.
Did you really? I don't know much about the book.
Apparently the guy was not a big fan of the film.
I imagine it would have been pretty polarizing.
Yeah. So
they got into the doldrums.
They get into the doldrum, and then the watchdog comes along. So this dog comes along barking, and
his name's Tok.
His name is Tok, and he chases them away, and then he opens up his chest, and there's a big clock, and then he taps it, and he closes it up again. And
which makes perfect sense.
Yep. Well, everything
he's
in
a watchdog.
Yeah, he's a watchdog. That's right.
But he's also so well spoken and articulate. Like he's got a very, very articulate way of speaking. He says, "I just love automobile rides."
So then they sort of team up, and they're driving along towards Dictionopolis, and they come across some interesting characters along the way. So the Doctor of Dissonance.
Yeah. Who was all about noise.
And about noise. And this guy loved terrible noises. And so he's sort of like one of those medicine men, who talks up the use of taking certain medicines. In this case, it's the benefits of terrible noise, horrible noise. And what I found interesting is through all the morality of it, as they're kind of just sort of tiptoeing away, trying to leave while he's going on about how much he loves noise and all the crashes. And the dog shoplifts.
He just steals his laughter.
He just steals his laughter.
I might need this.
Yep.
How convenient.
Yeah, convenient. I'm going to take laughter. There you go.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the only things in it that I saw and thought.
Well, I went on to become a young kleptomaniac. So.
Yeah, I can totally see that. You're very articulate, well spoken, and very dodgy hands.
Swift fingers. You got to pick a pocket or two.
Yeah. So they keep on going.
Well, it gets into these two areas. There's the words and the numbers. Yeah. Dictionopolis and I can't remember the name for the maths ones. So there's two rival kings. Digitopolis, that's it. And there's two rival brothers there, but they're both kings. And words and numbers, and they're not getting along.
Yeah, because the world only needs numbers, or the world only needs words.
Yeah. I can't comment on all this because I just take it as the word of God. You know? It's just how it is.
Yeah.
But I wonder how it holds up to someone, who's watching it as an adult. Is it a film that an adult can get into? You know how Pixar movies, they have a little sub, an adult sort of sub level which adults can laugh at, kids win.
I guess in a way that's what I was looking for out of this film. And for a film that focuses so much on wordplay and the meaning of words, it was very for kids in terms of its lessons. It was like something that compressing a whole bunch of lessons into one film, laying over some psychedelic visuals.
Yeah.
And just having the importance of words, the importance of numbers, and they meet the spelling bee and the humbug. So all of the characters are based on a play of words, pretty much. Watchdog, spelling bee, humbug.
I liked humbug. He was like the comic relief sort of.
Yeah, he was the comic relief.
And he wouldn't get along with the bee, and he would say things like, "Begone, odious wasp." "Begone, didactic drone."
But for a humbug, he was pretty sprightly. Yeah. Normally when I think of a humbug, I think more of that doldrumsy type thing.
The one adult thing that I did pick up was that they sort of made him like a bit of a camp character because
that's true.
Later on there was one of the evil things. I don't know. I can just jump to it, I guess. The terrible Trivian. He says, "And that handsome gentleman." And humbug fixes his hat and his collar.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He does. And he says something about Milo. That's a fine, manly little boy.
Oh my gosh. And then he gets converted at the end into this pink outfit, and he looks at himself and he goes, "Egad, I'm gorgeous."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. He sort of was the comic relief.
But camp.
Yeah, but camp. They finally get to Dictionopolis. They meet the king. No, before they meet the king, the cop comes back and sends them to prison for 6 million years. Mm-hmm. And that's where they meet the witch, who is the sister of the weatherman.
Yeah.
And she's nice and tells them the story of the falling out between the kings and the fact that there are these two princesses, Rhyme and Reason, and that's really what gave cohesiveness in the kingdom. I'm trying to use that word instead of rhyme and reason because that's what they're called.
Yeah.
And they've run away into the castle in the sky.
Yeah.
So we then have our plot, which is Milo and his friends are going to save the princesses from the castle in the sky and restore order to the kingdom. That's when they convince each of the kings to let them go and do that.
Yeah.
And to make amends. And there's some interesting things along the way that happens. They fight the demons and they finally meet the princesses. Everyone's happy. And then Milo goes back into the real world.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it.
Yeah, so if you were going to sell this to a friend, say me, to say you really should watch this film, how would you sell it?
Well, it sort of goes back to just those memories I have of just it felt really adventurous to me. I used to daydream as a primary school kid about there being like a fantasy world outside of the world that I knew. I always used to feel that way.
It is very imaginative. It's a very imaginative world, and I think I can completely understand that tapping into the creative types.
And it was just felt like there was this sort of bigger world going on outside, and it used to get me in trouble because I used to like just wander off. Yeah.
That's the shoplifting type thing in there.
Yeah, pretty much. But also, yeah, it's got quite a really gripping ending, I find. Like, that stuff was pretty dark for me back then, like the drawings of the monsters, and it was all sketchy, and it was quite,
the monsters were pretty, I can see that being pretty scary for kids. Like what was the one with no face?
Yeah, the terrible Trivium.
Yeah, so he was pretty evil.
But even earlier on, like even in the doldrums, the Lethargians, they start turning evil as well. Like they just get this weird evil look at all of a sudden, and they start morphing together, and they want to drown him. Yeah, that was so.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what they were going to do to him because I wasn't sure if they were drowning him or just
trying to keep him there forever.
Yeah. But actually, the terrible Trivium, he had some of the best quotes though. He said there, and it really stung me because it just all it could do would just make me think about my work. Where it says all these petty tasks and worthless jobs, so many useless things to do.
It's all about your job. He's got the humbug like entranced. He's just repeating him.
Yeah, that's right. And he gives them these tasks. One of them is he has to take this needle and break down a mountain. And what was the other one?
He had to eyedropper and empty a well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty relevant.
Yeah, I still remember all those things as a kid, yeah. And the hypocrite, I told you so.
Overbearing know-it-all.
Yeah, overbearing know-it-all.
Threadbare excuse.
Yeah.
And Yosemite Sam is the voice of the demon of insincerity.
Oh, yeah.
But they get caught in the pit.
I've seen that copied, actually. That was used in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. They use that little, he's meant to be a giant monster, but it's actually a little thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they use that.
Oh.
I don't know if it was from this. Maybe.
I did see Hasta La Vista as they were leaving Kingdom of Words. Dictionopolis.
Oh, yeah, that little squire. I like that little guy.
Yeah.
It was like they were all using eloquent welcomes, and he would just go, hi.
Yeah.
Welcome. Bonjour. And he goes, hi. Be there. Ciao.
So how did you find it watching it again?
Yeah, I'm still wrapped up as a kid. I can't actually disassociate it anymore.
Oh, right.
It's a part of who I am,
Yeah.
so I'm the worst person to even talk about this film with.
No, you're the best because I think that's the point. If you get two people who've watched this film as adults who haven't had a real deep engagement with it as a child, you're only going to get one side of the story.
Yeah.
And
so, like, Tok, he's got this wrinkly puppy skin. And ever since I saw that, I just wanted a dog,
Yeah, it was very comfortable looking in a way, something you could cuddle.
Yeah.
Hey?
And, at the end with the fireworks and Rhyme and Reason, I guess we haven't really got to that, but, they saved the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still get sort of emotional at that,
really?
where all the old characters show up one by one and they're singing, Rhyme and Reason will prevail. And there's fireworks, it's kind of nice. And then it ends with that No Hope is Too High Milo. They change the same song into a different sort of vibe.
He's an
inspired
boy, and he once he gets out of the Phantom Tollbooth, he waves at himself in the mirror. Yeah, it's and it's only been 5 minutes since he's been gone, and then Ralph has to hang up the phone because it's happening at his end.
Yeah.
And that just made me think, well, hang on a sec, does that mean that him saving the day is Ralph going to have to save the day now?
Yeah. I sort of knew that this whole thing was a package just for Milo. It was just a lesson for him. I got that when I was young.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because Ralph has to go through it as well. Otherwise, he won't understand.
Yeah, unless he turns up and everything's hunky-dory and he's still bored because Milo saved the day.
Poor Ralph.
Yeah.
But the big monster at the end, it still scares me.
So it like combined a whole bunch of things to become, was it hatred or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was called, but yeah, it showed all the words together, and yeah, it was just like this eel-looking dragon type thing. And Tok goes and bites it, but he gets broken, and I still get brokenhearted about that because he won't wake up.
Wake up, Tok!
Wake up!
Wake up! Oh, Tok! It'd be interesting if the tape broke before there was a resolution.
Oh my gosh!
Because we'd be watching all of these things on tape. You'd wear out the tape.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean it's sort of one of those things where I feel like I'd almost have to deconstruct all of the words and the discussions that happened to really have a deep conversation about the meaning behind a lot of it.
But it definitely did sort of you can categorize it as a kid's film. You didn't really engage with it.
Yeah. I would say it just had so much that it went from one lesson to the other, and it was my wife once again came up with the best way to explain it. She said it was intense in a really weird way.
In a really weird way.
Yeah.
She watched it as well.
As she normally does from the distance. She'll be doing stuff, and I'll be watching it, taking my notes. I really wish I had, because I know this is like a really important film for you. Like,
well, I think it's just it did, like you say, it sparked my imagination. So things like the sunset and music changing colors and, that stuff.
That was good.
Just,
where they meet the only sane person in the kingdom, which is the guy that...
he conducts like sunsets and sunrises and...
The music in it, all the orchestral stuff, you can feel all of that Bugs Bunny cartoon music, because that always had fantastic orchestral stuff in it.
It's like symphony stuff almost, yeah.
And it was interesting. It was really strange in a way because the beginning has this 70s groove music with people actually singing a song. And then when he's in the world, there's all this orchestral music and everyone's kind of like half singing it. It's just like they're not putting all of their all into it. It's just like Milo don't serve in the doldrums.
Oh, okay.
That probably doesn't make any sense because I can't actually remember. I actually had the subtitles on for this so I could follow it, and even then I couldn't.
I sort of understand what you mean. Yeah, it was very... Yeah, on rewatching it, I was actually a bit worried about how it would actually hold up to an adult watching it.
I don't think it's something I think it's something that's really good for kids because it's something that they can watch over and over again. It does have a bit of nostalgia for me purely because of the voices in it are very much from Bugs Bunny. And I did like there were pieces of it that I did enjoy. I did enjoy some of the stuff later on in the film, where they meet the kings and everyone has to make a speech, and whatever their speech is, they have to eat it. So their all speeches are basically roast turkey and stuff, but Milo doesn't realize it, so he says something. Ladies
and gentlemen, thank you all for being here.
Yeah, and he has to eat that.
And those words pop up on his plate. And he said that you should have chosen something more tastier to say.
and meeting the numbers guy as well.
Who's sort of just like when you meet I think he's the mathematician.
Mathematician, that's it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what's important, and then he breaks into song.
Yeah.
Obviously. That's what you do.
And he has to convince him why he should make amends with his brother, and because they don't disagree on anything. So he has to have an argument that'll convince him, and his argument is that if they disagree on everything, then they can agree that they always disagree, so therefore they do agree on something.
Yeah.
And that breaks his head and he acquiesces.
Yeah. I guess, I remember things like how he uses words and numbers to defeat the monsters.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He gets given all of the words and phrases and meanings in the world in a bag and a pencil which has all of the equations that have ever existed or will ever exist, which I think is, you don't lose that. That'd be pretty handy.
And he like draws a 4 and then he puts words in it and he uses that like a bow and shoots words.
That's how he destroys hate and ignorance.
Yeah. So I guess, would you say you've been scarred by this? If I put you through hell?
No, this isn't the toy. But I would say that it's something that it didn't resonate with me as much as it has with you, though I can understand why it would. It does feel very dense in all of the stuff that goes on.
Did you get a sense of that sort of, unrealness, that sort of surrealness?
Yeah, it was very surreal, very Alice in Wonderland, but even less cohesive.
Yeah, I think that's what I really liked about this. It was just like, it was very random.
It was.
I am a sort of random person. It's actually what inspired me to start drawing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, after seeing this.
Yeah, I mean, it does, like the landscapes are very out there. They're just, he's on a road that goes up and down. There's nothing on either side of him, or, when he destroys the sunrise and everything's going crazy, there's all these lights and stuff going ballistic.
Yeah, and the monsters are all really sketchy. I was really drawn to that.
Yeah. There was a lot of thought, I think, that went into the creation of it. But I think that there was, I think if there was an underlying plot that was a little stronger, I think it probably would have been more enjoyable as an adult watching it.
Yeah.
Because it was very much, going into, he gets a new car and he drives, and the plot of the film is then him going to the castle in the air. And that's basically all he's doing up until the point where they find about rhyme and reason. And that's like over halfway through the film. Yeah. And then from that point on, they have a reason to get there. So I guess in a way that's where the importance of him being challenged in certain ways to push through and achieve this goal probably gives it a bit more direction. But up until that point, it's just been this crazy surrealist stuff happening.
Yeah.
Almost to introduce the character, like they're introducing the character, the watchdog. He's just suddenly barking. He's suddenly there, and he's the watchdog. I can totally see a kid just who cares about the plot. This stuff is just really interesting to watch, and there's a lot of interesting things that they're saying.
Yeah. One thing I did notice in the rewatch was that he says, "Use letters to make up your own language," and I remember that you had one. You did that.
Yeah, no, I did. I was very much like you in terms of creating my own worlds and imagining, whether it's science fiction or fantasy or new languages and worlds. I was very much like that as a kid.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I think this probably would have resonated with me if I was a kid. But I think as an adult, it doesn't have quite as much of a resonance.
Yeah.
I still think it's an interesting film, though. Like, it's not just another comedy film. Like, if I said, "Oh, you got to watch The Toy," you'd watch this. Oh, that's one of those bad comedy films you watch when you're a kid and liked. Whereas The Phantom Tollbooth is a very unique film.
Yeah. And rewatching it, I would actually recommend it, but I would say maybe don't focus on it too much. Maybe have it in the background because it can be a little intense.
Yeah.
That's my warning.
Yeah.
But if you got ADD, you're fine.
Yeah. What's the story? I don't know. Is there a story? I don't know.
It moves along fast.
It moves along. Yeah. I'm looking at the soundtrack, and the soundtracks are Milo's song, Don't say there's nothing to do in the doldrums. Time is a gift. Time is a gift. Something and something. Something, 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 something. Noise, noise, beautiful noise. That one, it was funny because the point of that was that all these irritating noise, and it really did irritate you. Word market. Numbers are the only thing that count. Rhyme and reason reign.
So I apologize.
You don't need to. You don't need to. I guess
I do think it stands as a unique experience. You're not going to find a film like this, I don't think.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a rating apart from whether we apologise or not.
Yeah.
I think it's I mean, the toy really was. The rating for that is, I'm so sorry I put you through that.
Yeah. I guess we'll speak about the next film.
Yeah, so
it's one of yours.
Yeah, so the next film is Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Amazing.
Yeah, it certainly is a sight to see.
And this is your film.
Yeah, this is my film, and it's almost the entire opposite of the Phantom Tollbooth in that there's so little going on for such a long period of time.
Because you've already watched it.
I have pretty much it. So we can talk about that in the next one. So,
thanks so much for putting up with this one.
Yeah. Thanks so much. All the best. Take care. Put your children to bed.
Thank you. Insert catchphrase here.
Insert the catchphrase. No, we haven't stopped. I'll stop it. Hang on. 1 sec. I'm going to stop right about